I held tightly the wedding ring box I had prepared for 3 years, but I saw my fiancé propose to his first love on the live broadcast. Not only did the whole network laugh at me as a poor loser, but my family's stock price plummeted by 30 percentage points. When reporters surrounded me and asked me when I was going to die, the man who was rumored to have committed 13 murders descended from the sky, with 10 helicopters full of banners saying that he would marry me that day. On the eve of the wedding, Prince Harper Scott of Carbury suddenly announced that he would marry his first love, Grace, and this news shocked the entire aristocratic circle. Originally, he was going to marry Zelda of the Frost family, but the appearance of Grace ruined all his plans. Harper once told Zelda that she was like an uncut jade that could not be tarnished by anyone, but now, this jade was thrown away by him. Zelda was full of disappointment and anger, but she had to accept the reality for the sake of her family's reputation. After all, she was about to marry Axel Knight, the most notorious playboy in Carbury. However, Harper didn't seem to have completely let go of Zelda. He showed up at her door with a bunch of designer bags, trying to explain everything. Zelda, I know you're angry, but Grace and I are just sham marriages, and we'll get divorced in a year. We can date secretly for a year, okay? His words made Zelda feel sick. She looked at him coldly, no longer trusting him. 3 days ago, the families of both parties were busy preparing for the wedding of Zelda and Harper. The Frost family specially invited business celebrities to dinner. It should have been a grand banquet, but it was interrupted by Grace's sudden intrusion. She was wearing a white dress and delicate makeup, like an angel descending. She cried and asked Harper for help, claiming that she did not want to marry Axel. Harper is the White Road Prince of Carbury, while Axel is the Black Road Prince. It is not surprising that Grace chose to ask Harper for help, but Zelda did not expect that the oath Harper once made to her would be shattered the moment Grace appeared. Seeing Grace crying in Harper's arms, Zelda's heart was completely cold. If you want to hug, go outside. Zelda glared at the two of them coldly. Harper whispered I'm sorry and took Grace away. A few days later, Harper and Grace announced their engagement in the media. Zelda became the laughingstock of Carbury. When she saw Harper again, he was no longer her fiancé, but Grace's husband. Mr. Scott, please leave my house. Zelda unceremoniously ordered him to leave. Harper still refused to give up and tried to explain that his marriage with Grace was just an act. Zelda, you have to believe me. We are just acting. Zelda interrupted him. Oh, really? Then if our secret relationship is exposed, how will you explain it? Will you say your marriage is fake? Or am I the mistress? Harper was silent. Zelda knew that she shouldn't ask this question. Now, please get out of my house. Zelda couldn't stand it anymore and drove him out, but Harper was still shouting, Zelda, you can't do this. I love you. In all of Carbury, I'm the only one who deserves you. If you don't marry me, no one else will dare to marry you. Zelda was silent. Harper was right. Ever since he rejected her, she was worried that she would never find a suitable marriage in Carbury. Just then, a voice came from outside the door. When did your Scott family become so powerful in Carbury? It was Axel. His appearance surprised both Zelda and Harper. Are you Zelda? Axel looked at her with a hint of amusement in his eyes. Yes, Zelda replied calmly. Oh, you look good. Let's try and see if we can succeed. Axel's words surprised Zelda. She looked up at him and found that he was not as scary as the rumors said. Instead, he had a unique charm. Well, there are still 3 hours until sunset. Go prepare the betrothal gifts. Don't let me down. Zelda said, turned around and left, ignoring Harper's shouting behind her. After walking a few steps, she stopped and said, by the way, be sure to throw him out too. Soon, Axel returned with a betrothal gift. Although all this was just a formality, Zelda realized that she was actually going to marry this notorious troublemaker in Carbury. They set the wedding date for a week later. Harper hurriedly pushed Axel aside and stood in front of Zelda. Zelda, you are doing this today just to make me angry, right? Are you really going to marry that scoundrel? Zelda looked at him in confusion. Are you crazy? Who I marry is none of your business. Harper still insisted. You can't marry him. He's not a good man. Zelda, just wait for me for a year. Trust me, okay? I'll marry you next year. Zelda couldn't help but roll her eyes. It's not like I can't get married. Why should I wait for you for half a year? At this moment, Grace appeared. When she saw Zelda, she immediately knelt down and said, Zelda, please, don't take my man away. Please. Zelda was startled by her action and took a step back. Grace's reaction made her feel that she was the bad guy. Zelda, you know, I'm different from you. You have a prominent background, but I have nothing. I only have Harper. Please, give him to me, okay? Grace's voice sounded very pitiful, and she kept crawling on the ground. Zelda accidentally saw the bracelet on her wrist, which was a family heirloom of the Scott family, a treasure left to their future granddaughter-in-law. Now, the bracelet was worn on Grace's hand, and Harper kept claiming that he loved Zelda. This was ridiculous. What's going on? Zelda asked coldly. I don't know, but it seems that the young lady from the Frost family is destroying Mr. Scott's marriage. The original bride even came to question her. The neighbors passing by began to talk. Zelda said sternly, Grace, if you can't even protect your own husband, why do you come here to cause trouble for me? What she hated most was people who pretended to be innocent. You're doing all this just to force Harper to marry you, right? Now you're dragging Axel into this too. I won't marry him. Grace still pretended to be aggrieved. Zelda looked at her in disbelief. You're crazy. Your husband is here to see me. Instead of wasting time here, why don't you go take care of your own husband? If Grace had no shame, she would be truly invincible. Zelda didn't want to continue dealing with her, so she turned to look at Harper who was standing nearby. If you don't take that drama queen of yours away, I can't believe what Axel will do. Zelda's reminder seemed a little late. With Grace's screams, everything became more intense. The wine in Axel's hand had already splashed on her face. You've gone too far. Harper quickly hugged Grace in his arms and walked out quickly. At that moment, Zelda felt that everything was strange and familiar. Axel asked, it's cold. Zelda, why don't you wear more clothes? This was also the most words Harper said to Zelda all winter. Once, it was snowing outside and Zelda accidentally lost her keys while Harper was in a meeting at the company. When she found out that she couldn't go home, Harper immediately dropped everything and came to find her. At that time, he cared about her just like he did for Grace, sending her clothes, hugging her tightly when he saw her, and making ginger soup for her when he got home. From then on, Zelda completely gave her heart to him. Now, Zelda finally understood that love can be disguised. What's wrong? Are you still with your ex? Axel's words brought her out of her memories. He's just trash, nothing to remember. Zelda looked at him, taking a closer look at the man for the first time. She had to admit that compared to Harper, he was pretty handsome, just a little bit of a gangster. This was ridiculous. ridiculous. This man that everyone avoided was now going to be her husband. After getting rid of Harper and Grace, Zelda finally had a moment of peace. It was then that she remembered that she had to attend an auction tomorrow, and she happened to mention it to Axel. The next morning, Zelda packed up everything and went out. There was news of her everywhere in Carbury, so she had to be extra careful when she went out. As soon as she entered the auction house, she heard people talking in low voices. Did you hear? Mr. Scott announced that he must get pigeon-blood red for Grace today. Of course I heard about it. Wasn't he engaged to Zelda? Why did he suddenly marry Grace? I heard that Grace's family background wasn't that good, and it seemed that she was originally going to marry Axel, but was snatched away by Mr. Scott. Who knows? Zelda of the Frost family has now become the laughingstock of Carbury. Did you know? Zelda and Axel got engaged yesterday. Oh my god, this sounds like a novel. This is the case in Carbury. Good news may not spread throughout the city, but bad news will spread throughout the city. When Zelda reached her seat, she found Harper and Grace sitting next to her. Isn't it a surprise to see you at the auction, Zelda? Where's Axel? Zelda felt sick as soon as Grace opened her mouth. Zelda, it's damn obvious when someone doesn't love you. Harper was just as disgusting. Zelda rolled her eyes and turned her attention back to the auction. Most of the items on sale were unremarkable, and everyone was waiting for the last piece, the pigeon-blood red piece. Sure enough, when the pigeon-blood red color appeared, everyone's attention was attracted. No matter who it is today, don't compete with me. This pigeon-blood red flower must be mine, Harper said confidently. Although Zelda also likes it, she is not willing to pay a high price to compete with them. Thank you, dear. Grace kissed Harper on the cheek. It looked like Harper enjoyed it very much. Just then, a voice interrupted. Miss Frost, Mr. Knight said that pigeon-blood red is a gift for you. Zelda then noticed that Axel's assistant had been with her the whole time. Forget it, I won't compete with them, Zelda said to her assistant. She had never been particularly interested in these things anyway. Maybe the assistant didn't know what to do, so he called Axel for instructions. Then, a little later, Axel came. Only you are worthy of this work. As for the one pretending to be innocent, she doesn't deserve it. After saying that, he suddenly put down the last bidding card. Harper, offer higher. I want it, Grace said eagerly. Harper blushed. They've already bid. What's the point in bidding now? In the end, the auction ended with Axel winning the pigeon-blood ruby. Later, Axel had to go out early, and Zelda stayed to wait for the handover of pigeon-blood red. But she didn't expect that Harper would come to her again. Zelda, I know you're still angry with me. Can we please stop being angry now? As soon as Harper saw Zelda, she pulled her aside. I know you hate me for marrying Grace, but I really don't love her. I just want to help her once. Harper became more and more anxious, as if she had suffered some great injustice. Enough. Harper, do you think you are an ancient emperor? You want to play the game of choosing a concubine with me? You married Grace and now you come to harass me? Don't you feel pitiful? Please get out of my sight now. After Zelda said this, she wanted to leave, but found herself completely blocked by Harper. You only said that because you were angry. I know you still love me. You married Axel just to get my attention. Now I understand. Zelda, you will come back, and I will love you well. As he said that, he leaned over and kissed her. Zelda struggled desperately, but found that her hand was firmly held by him. She closed her eyes and shouted casually, but suddenly, everything around her became strangely quiet. Harper, didn't your mother teach you not to flirt with other people's fiancés? The next second, a fist the size of a sandbag hit Harper in the face. Zelda looked in shock as Axel stood before her. Aren't you leaving? She asked. He put his hand on her head and ruffled her hair. I think my little princess was bullied, so I came back. He did this, which made Zelda blush a little. Zelda, you brought him here just to make me angry, right? Tell me the truth. Harper lost his mind and kept trying to move forward, but he was repeatedly repelled by Axel. Zelda yelled, Harper, if you're not blind, you should be able to guess that Axel and I are getting married in a week. If you want to come to the wedding, you're welcome to come, but if you cause trouble, don't blame us for being rude. Afterwards, Zelda and Axel left together, leaving Harper sitting there alone. But that day, Zelda didn't notice that there was a pair of eyes watching her from behind. If she had noticed, then the following things would not have happened. When Zelda returned home that night, her parents looked at her with worried eyes. Zelda, have you really thought it through? Mom's eyes were filled with tears, and she almost cried. Don't worry, Mom. I think Axel is a good man. Zelda didn't know why she said this, but she just felt as if she knew her choice was not wrong. In the following days, nothing special happened, and Axel prepared for their wedding in an orderly manner. As the big day approached, Zelda began to feel a little nervous. But generally speaking, the closer things are to good things, the more likely troublemakers are to appear. That's the thing about Grace and Harper. They're both just horrible. They seem to feel they have to create some kind of chaos to justify themselves at this point.